Hello, everyone. Very good evening, and welcome back to another session this week. It's a very special session, I must say, in terms of you know these things that we deal in our daily lives. Everyone, I think, everyone will agree with me that one of us is going through one of these problems that we are going to discuss about today. So we have Harsh with us, who's going to take us through presentation for next 60 minutes on how can you overcome the problems that we're going to talk about, which is how to reduce hair fall and fatigue and eat without bloating. Harsh Doshi is the co-founder of Hug Beverages and the representative of the Indian Association of Functional Medicine. Harsh, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this for us and for all our esteemed clients and their employees. And we're all ears for you now.
Thank you so much, Shiva. Absolute pleasure to be here. The session today is going to be very interesting. Like Shiva mentioned, when we talk about bloating, when we talk about hair fall, when we talk about loss of energy, fatigue, we typically take a very symptomatic approach to it. If you have that one problem, let's find a solution to it, right? So, for example, if you have a hair fall problem, let's buy a supplement of biotin or maybe some wellness gummies online, depending on what Facebook ad you're served, and you will see a good result. But the question is, what happens when you stop that supplement? If the result doesn't continue, it means all you've done is put a band-aid on the problem. The same thing, by the way, applies to fatigue. It's very easy to open a can of Red Bull or take any other energy drink and feel good for that moment, or that day, or those couple of hours. But how do you go past that, right? Why is fatigue happening in the first place? It's not normal and it shouldn't be happening. Today, we're not going to be talking about symptoms. We're going to be talking about root causes. The actual way and manner in which you can identify what is causing these conditions, more than one, seemingly unrelated right now, and how you can fix that particular root cause. Now, of course, everybody has a wide range of root causes. So what I'm going to focus on today is going to be the liver, because it happens to be the root cause for almost 60 to 70% of cases where these are the symptoms. Whether it's hair fall, fatigue, vitamin deficiencies, muscle pain, arthritic pain, joint pain, you will notice that the liver is keenly involved in all of these areas. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. I'm going to just share my screen so you get a clear idea of what and how we're going to take this conversation forward. But before we do that, let me quickly introduce myself. So, as Shiva said, my name is Harsh. I focus currently on just two aspects of the body. One is gut health and one is liver health. As the founder of Hug Beverages, we started with a mission to reduce or replace medicines and replace them with real food ingredients, which means we focus on herbs, leaves, and spices that we can use in their natural, real combinations as direct replacements for common medicines. Today, we found replacements for constipation medicines. We have replacements for acidity medicines. We also actually have replacements for certain types of blood sugar medication. Today, we're going to be talking about one segment of what we do. So just as a quick background and introduction, right? This is sort of our approach. Most of our work, R&D, happens at our factory, which is in Daman, about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Bombay. We got everything that we do from a real food standpoint. So our focus is always going to be focusing on real ingredients as opposed to extracts or supplements or powders. Before we start, I want to set the context correct. And I want to explain what identification, fixing from the root cause actually means. Here's a story or a small snippet of that. This is a person who found out the root cause of their gut problems. So this person was lactose intolerant, gluten intolerant, anything they had, they used to get bloating. After almost 3 or 4 years of trials and tribulations, they found out that nickel, the metal nickel, is actually the thing that they are allergic to. There was an implant in the body which had a little bit of the nickel metal in it. When they removed that implant and they removed all other sources of nickel, you can see, right? Stainless steel cups, stainless steel food, stainless steel containers, the allergies started to go away almost entirely. It doesn't stop here. They can now tolerate dairy, something they didn't think they could eat. They can now tolerate cheese. They don't look pregnant anymore, right? Which means bloating has almost entirely gone away. And the effect here was to identify the root cause and eliminate it from the system. Today, and in the next 60 minutes, I want to help you. And so we're going to get started, again, like I said, by talking about the liver. And when we talk about the liver, let's just get some perspective, right? They say it's the largest organ in the body. But I'm going to show you what that means, right? So if you take your hand down your chest to the point where the bone ends, right in the center, keep one finger over there. And the other hand, take it to the bottommost rib that you have. That is how large your liver is. It is roughly the size of a football inside your body. It performs probably more than 200 different processes at the same time every single day. So probably one of the most complex organs that's involved in detox pathways, food processing, and general improvement and well-being of health. This is what a normal liver should look like. This is what a fatty liver looks like. The difference between this is stark. When a liver goes from being normal to being fatty, and I'll show this to you one more time, a lot of the functions that it performs, it is not being able to perform properly. Back to that 200 number, some of these functions are either performed less optimally and some are not performed at all. And the result is all sorts of symptoms that we experience that we think are unrelated, but are actually all linked in many ways to the liver. Typically, the only way you find out if you have a liver problem or not, or if your liver is fatty or not, is if you have done an ultrasound test. Most of us have not done an ultrasound test, right? It's not part of a routine checkup, so we'll never know whether the liver will have a particular problem or not. So today I want to start off the session by giving you 7 simple do-it-yourself tests. These are things that most senior gastroenterologists will use if you go to them for a liver checkup. This will give you a very clear idea of whether your liver is in a poor state, an okay state, or a state in which it needs some help. This, of course, is not clinical, but it's a very good estimate to figure out, okay, where you are on the spectrum of liver damage today. And if that will explain some of the other symptoms that you have. So 7 simple tests, right? With every test that I give you, I want you to start by sort of adding a point, right? So if you answer yes to the actual test, just mark on a piece of paper number 1. If you answer no, give yourself a 0. At the end, out of 7, we're going to see how many you've scored. And accordingly, we'll figure out the state of your liver health, right? So we're going to start one by one with the simplest test. Now, interestingly, a lot of people think that if you are obese, your liver health will be bad. But research has proven time and time again, it's not to do with weight, it's to do with your waist. How wide the circumference of your waist is, right? How large the circumference of your waist is directly relates to whether you have a fatty liver or not. And that sort of even makes sense logically, right? You're accumulating fat in a part of the body which is closest to your waist. So the wider it is, the better an indication of the state of your liver. Again, so if you take a small measuring tape, put it around your navel, not around your hips, around your navel. And what you should find is an identification of liver fat. Now, while I'm talking about this, there's a small separation that's important. We typically see multiple situations in patients where they'll come and say, I'm thin, I don't have a high BMI, I look lean, my liver must be normal. In this country, particularly, but also across the world, when it comes to liver, there is something called a thin fat person. You look thin from the outside, but you still have fatty liver. This is not a minority. More than 50% of fatty liver cases are in people who actually look thin. There's a reason for this. There are 2 types of fat. One is fat which is under the skin, right? We call that subcutaneous fat. And the other fat is inside the body, so around the organs, and we call that visceral fat. When you exercise, when you work out, typically you lose your subcutaneous fat. So bahar se you start to look a little thin, right? You look thin. But unless you fix the internal fat problem, you will have all types of metabolic conditions. I also want to be very clear about this. Exercise alone does not help you get rid of visceral fat. That is why you have a lot of thin diabetics, thin fatty liver, thin metabolic conditions. I also want to refer quickly, right, just to drill this point into something that I call the avocado principle. This will make the picture sort of very clear to you. Like an avocado, the seed of the avocado, typically what we'll refer to as the liver fat, and the outside of the avocado we'll refer to as body fat. And when you start doing weight training, you might shrink the whole size, you might shrink only the outside, but the seed itself may have no effect whatsoever. So for example, if you're losing weight, maybe you're losing your body fat, but not your liver fat. If you're gaining weight, maybe you're gaining in your liver fat, not your body fat. So this separation between the two is extremely important to understand. So do not make the mistake that because you are underweight, maybe your liver is okay. It has to do with your waist, not your weight. And so the numbers that a lot of international organizations, especially in the European Union, have said is that 36 inches plus for men and 33 inches plus for women, the waist, is the first indication that your liver health may not be okay. In fact, it's so sensitive that it is almost as a very good predictor for a fatty liver, whether it's stage 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got to get more tests done for that, but it's step number 1. So if you've ever taken a measurement recently, or you've purchased some new clothing and you know what that number is, put yourself in one category. Is your waist, if you're a man, more than 36 inches, then give yourself a 1. And if it's less than that, give yourself a 0. For women, if your waist is more than 33 inches, give yourself a 1. If it's less than that, give yourself a 0. All right, we're going to move on to the next piece, right? Triglycerides. If you've gotten a blood test done or a blood report done anytime recently, one of the things that you notice underneath cholesterol is a number called triglycerides. Triglycerides happen to be one of the ways in which your body stores energy. Interestingly, it's also the strongest predictor of liver health. If you have a blood report done, check what the triglyceride number is. If it's more than 150, it means that there is fat deposition on your liver. It means your liver function is not okay. By the way, it's also proportional. Some people that we see have triglycerides 300, 400. That is an advanced stage of liver trouble. But even a little bit is cause for concern. So if you have your reports handy, pick them up, go to your lipid profile. Underneath cholesterol, you'll see a name, a parameter or a variable called triglycerides. Check if yours is more than 150. And if yes, give yourself a 1. If no, give yourself a 0. If you don't currently have access to this number, that's all right. Give yourself a 0. We're going to go on. I want to talk now about stool quality, right? This is the third test that we're going to be doing right now, right? Is your stool yellow? Let me explain what I mean by that and why this indicates liver health. Your liver creates a digestive juice called bile. Bile is actually yellow in color, right? It's how you break down fat in the body. A lot of you may also be familiar with this. Interestingly, certain types of gut bacteria eat the bile and change that color to brown. So it starts from yellow and it becomes brown. When you poop, if your liver or your stool color remains yellow, if it's not changed to brown, it is an indication that there is a dysregulation in your bile pathway. It means what needs to happen or what should have happened is not happening. And this is one of the primary indications that your liver is starting to get compromised. Just as an aside, a lot of people who go with gallbladder stones or who require gallbladder surgery, when they first go to the hospital, this is the first question the doctor asks. Pichle 7 dinon mein, how many times has your stool been yellow versus brown? Right? That's how strong a predictor this is. If it's happening 1 or 2 times, that's all right. If it's happening regularly, and this is something that you should mark. So if your stool is regularly yellow, give yourself a 1. And if it's not, give yourself a 0. I'm moving now to part 4, which is your stool sticky, which means when you have to flush multiple times for your stool to get washed down? Does it stick to the pot on one side? There's again a reason for this. Your body breaks down different components of your food in different parts of the digestive system, right? So in your stomach, you'll break down protein. In your small intestine, you break down a lot of carbs. But it's the liver juice which helps you break down fat. In fact, it's the only thing really that breaks down fat. So if your liver is not producing juice properly, it's one of the 200 functions that is not happening optimally, you'll have a lot of fat inside your poop or in your stool. That fat makes your poop extremely sticky. It's not smooth, it sort of gets attached to different surfaces. This again is another indication that your liver health is not as good as you would like it to be. So if your stool is sticky, you have to flush multiple times to let it go down, then 100%. You need to give yourself a 1. Otherwise, you give yourself a 0. Test number 5, does your stool float, right? I'm going to take you back now to 5th or 6th grade science. Oil and water separate, right? If you put oil in a glass of water, it's going to come to the top. Similarly, if you have undigested fat, it's going to come straight to the top. And so one of the sort of a leading indicator of liver health, i.e. if your stool has a lot of fat and if it's floating on the surface of the water in your toilet, it means that your liver health may not be as good as you would like it to be, right? So quickly, before I go forward, let me just take a quick recap for the first 5 before I move to the last 2. Waist size is number 1. High triglycerides is number 2. Your stool color is number 3. Sticky stool, number 4. And whether your stool floats is number 5.
Harsh, sorry to disturb you here, but there's a question in the chat box. It says stool yellow is 1 or 0.
Stool yellow is 1. All right. Thank you for asking. Yellow stool is 1. Sticky stool is 1. And if your stool floats, that's 1. Right? Yellow stool is 1. Sticky stool 1. If your stool floats, it's 1. I'm now going to move on to, in my opinion, this was perhaps the most fascinating thing I have learned in the last quarter. And it wasn't one, it was 4 different doctors that sort of introduced this particular concept to me. Right shoulder pain. Now, let me tell you exactly where, right? Because there's a lot of things that are happening there. This particular part is your right shoulder blade, right? So I'm inverted on your screen, but at the moment it's right. The part between your right shoulder blade and your spine, there is a small muscle in the middle, in between these two. Pain there, or pain in the area where the right shoulder blade goes to your neck. So you can see whether it's either of these 2 points is an indication again that your liver or gallbladder is having a reflux. First, understand the science. Your right shoulder is connected to your liver by something called the phrenic nerve. This is a single nerve that connects the 2. So when there is trouble at one end of the nerve, there is very, very likely going to be trouble at the other end of the nerve. So if you fixed your posture, if you're sitting upright, right, you don't have a problem on the left side, but you have a problem on the right side, means you've done physiotherapy, etc. But the pain persists. Understand this is not a muscle problem. This could be a liver problem. It is an indication that your liver may not be okay, right? So I'll say this again, right shoulder, not left. Left shoulder is the pancreas, right? So right shoulder between your shoulder blade and your spine. If you've got a little bit of pain there, or between your shoulder blade and your neck, right? The angle upwards. If you've got a little bit of pain here and it's persistent, fixing your liver may give you relief for this pain. It's also an indication that something may be wrong with your liver. So if you have this pain, give yourself a 1. And if you don't, yourself a 0. I'm going to go to the last sort of test, which is going to be it's drinking frequency, right? Alcohol. This is something most of us know, right? Alcohol damages the liver, we know it. However, I'm going to explain the way we look at alcohol today. The standard definition of amount of alcohol that causes liver damage is 15 units per week. This, by the way, is what a unit looks like. A glass is not a unit. It's amount of alcohol inside the glass, which is a unit. So when you look at the data, a single shot of spirits is 1 unit, right? For example, a whole pint of beer is 3 units, etc. Now, I know a lot of people will say, "Ek bar pita hu," right? At the occasional office party, I'll have one drink, or at an occasional celebration, I'll have one drink, or maybe once a month or twice a month, I have a drink. Of course, that's not enough to damage the liver, right? But you have to understand, if your liver is already in a slightly slower or poor state, and you combine alcohol on top of this, the damage becomes more than it would have been in a normal liver. Which means a normal liver starts from here, a poor liver starts from here, and when you have alcohol, it drops even further, even if it's a glass. In fact, so just a little bit of an aside, I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. I post very regularly most of my findings around liver, gut, etc. for general well-being. One of the posts I made before New Year's last year is that the cost of a fun evening is 30 days of recovery, right? So research shows that a single drink will take your liver sometimes 30 days to recover. For somebody that has healthier liver function, it could take less. For somebody that has worse liver function, it could take more. So while the amount of alcohol once or twice a month will not permanently damage your liver, it is definitely an indicator that your liver health is not as good as you would like it to be. So if you drink even a little bit once a month, give yourself a 1. And if you don't at all, if you abstain 100%, give yourself a 0, right? So those are the 7 tests. I'll run through them one quick time, and then I want you to share your score with me, right? So the first one is waist. Second one is triglycerides. So if your waist is more than 36 inches as a male, more than 33 inches as a female, give yourself a 1. If your triglycerides are more than 150, give yourself a 1. If your stool is largely yellow, give yourself a 1. If your stool is sticky, you have to flush multiple times, give yourself a 1. If your stool floats, give yourself a 1. If you have the right shoulder pain, give yourself a 1. And if you are drinking very frequently or even once a month, give yourself a 1. Now, I'm going to be sharing a small poll on your screen. I just want you to anonymously answer what you've scored. It will give me a very good idea as to the audience that I'm speaking to today, right? And what we can do together to improve that score and improve your liver health, right? So just take a moment. Shiva, if you could please kindly share the poll on the screen. Just take a moment and fill it
live.
Did you score less than 2? Did you score 3 to 5? Did you score more than 5, right? What have you scored? Just take a moment and fill in the details. We'll just wait for another maybe 10 or 15 seconds.
Yes, another 15 seconds and we'll finish 1 minute. Harsh, can you just go to test number 1? There's
I was just going through. So I noticed. All right. For everybody who's joined now, because I think a lot of people have joined after we've started, I'll just quickly run through this one more time. So the first test is waist size. It's more than 36 inches for a male or more than 33 inches for a female. It's a cause of concern, right? So you give yourself a 1. If your triglycerides are more than 150, if it's 150, it's fine, right? If it's more than 150, you give yourself a 1. If your stool is yellow, sticky, or if it floats on the water, give yourself a 1 for each of those, right? So that's totally 3 points. And finally, drinking frequency. And for everybody who's just joined after I've introduced myself, quickly, my name is Harsh. I'm the founder at Hug Beverages. We spend a lot of our time focusing only on gut and liver health. I actually think it's core to the body. You cannot be healthy until your gut and your liver isn't working in fantastic condition. And so that's where I spend most of my time. And our team and factory in Daman, we make a range of alternative medicines for liver and gut-related trouble. All right, can we see the results of the poll?
Yes, coming up on the screen. Yeah, the results on the screen.
All right, superb. So almost seems like a split down the center, right? Around half the people, absolutely no concern. And then the other half is above 3, right? Where there is a little bit of concern. So for both sides, I'm going to try to sort of walk you through now, first, why this matters, right? It's the question that I actually think a lot of people in healthcare don't ask. Okay, so my liver is a little fatty, so what? So I'm going to show you what the implications of this are. And in the next 10 minutes, you notice that there are a few supplements you will never need. You will never need to buy in your life if your liver is working properly. So I'm going to walk you through that in a second. And finally, we move to the solutions towards the latter half of what we're doing today. The first problem is bloating after meals, right? If your liver function is not okay, so if you've scored more than 3, more than 4, if it's not happening today, I guarantee you, I 100% guarantee you, you will face a bloating problem as you go forward in life. The reason is because when your liver doesn't function properly, it doesn't make the juice, bile juice, it needs to break down fatty food. This could be anything fried. This could be anything with a lot of sort of wheat. These are all items that or anything that's soaked in a lot of oil. These are all items that are inherently fatty. And you will inevitably have a lot of trouble breaking this down. By the way, a lot of people that become lactose intolerant happen to have a weak liver, right? Lactose meaning dairy is naturally fat. And so part of becoming intolerant means that your liver is also not performing the way it should. So bloating is an absolute byproduct of poor liver function. When you can't break that fat down, it gets fermented by a lot of gut bacteria, right? It should have gone into your body, but instead bacteria are eating it. And so food becomes gas, right? It's a fermentation byproduct. And that gas stays stuck in the body and you start getting a larger tummy, start feeling uncomfortable, heaviness after meals. When this continues, you'll start getting constipation. Sometimes the acidity will start coming back upwards in acid reflux. And then the problem spirals out of control, right? Once it starts, it keeps going forward. But not being able to break down fat has another problem. This is problem number 2, which is vitamin deficiency. You have 2 types of vitamins, some that are water soluble and some that are fat soluble. If you can't break down fat, you can't digest that fat. If you can't digest that fat, you cannot absorb that fat. If you cannot absorb that fat, you're not going to get any of the fat soluble vitamins inside that food that you have eaten. What are the fat soluble vitamins? There are 4. There's vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, and vitamin E. I'll tell you what the symptoms look like, and a lot of you may already relate with them directly. If you have low vitamin A, you'll start getting dry eyes. After looking at a screen for too long, you'll have to start washing your eyes constantly. If you've got low vitamin D, it's weak bones, right? This is a very common one. I'll explain the vitamin D pathway in one moment. Low vitamin E is muscle pain. You might feel you're young, right? 30s, 35s, even 40s. You suddenly get this weird muscle pain that you've never had before. It's not an age problem. It's a nutrition problem. And the last one is thin blood. If you cut and you start bleeding, check how long it takes to heal, right? How quickly does the wound close up? If it doesn't close very quickly, it means you've started having deficiency of vitamin K. In surgeries, this is very dangerous because if someone's cutting you open and your body doesn't heal itself fast, the blood flow keeps going out and you'll start having a different type of deficiency altogether, right? It creates an emergency situation. So vitamin A, D, E, K, all absolutely dangerous. If your liver is not working well, deficiency in all of these will create complete nuisance. I want to talk about vitamin D for a second, right? Because a lot of people have this deficiency. This is something that blows me away again and again. On the left-hand side is what people think is happening, right? Sunlight falls on my skin, I should have vitamin D. And I remember a lot of people actually ask me, especially on LinkedIn, a lot of people message me and saying, I spend time in the sun, why am I vitamin D deficient? It's because it's not that the sun creates vitamin D. The sun hits your skin, so cholesterol on your skin becomes a pre-vitamin D, which then goes to the liver to become completely vitamin D. But if your liver doesn't function properly, when sunlight hits your skin, the pre-vitamin D is made, but vitamin D is never made. And so you become naturally deficient. Your body has no use of pre-vitamin D. You need vitamin D to make it work. And that is why liver is so crucial for vitamin deficiencies. In fact, just for the good and healthy vitamin balance altogether. I'm moving now to problem number 3. This is very interesting. I think some of the things that I'm sharing here, I've managed to gather after looking at quite literally thousands of patients. bad breath. I am now convinced that in less than 10% of cases, I'm happy to go on record saying this, less than 10% of cases, bad breath is not an oral problem. Bad breath is a gut problem. If bad breath was an oral problem, just brushing once would have been fine. But if you keep getting it again and again, if your breath stinks, smells, especially after you wake up in the morning, it is no longer an oral issue. It is very, very, very likely a gut issue. In fact, in 90% of cases, I would say it's a gut issue. I'm going to explain one pathway very clearly. When certain types of bacteria or fungus come into your intestines, they release certain types of gas. For example, if you have a bacteria which produces hydrogen sulfide, that is the same smell of rotten eggs or rotten food or rotten fish. So if your breath starts to smell like that, you know that there is an overgrowth of that bacteria. Similarly, on a keto diet, a lot of people will say that my breath smells like nail polish. When your body produces ketones, your liver breaks down the ketone into a byproduct called acetate. Acetate is the same thing they use in nail polish. That is why your breath smells like acetate, right? It smells like nail polish. So in the same way, when I say that poor liver function can contribute to bad breath, I'm talking about this largely from a bacteria or a fungus standpoint. Bile, the juice that the liver makes, is very acidic. It's actually called bile acids. The acidity acts like an antibiotic. It cleans away a lot of the negative or pathogenic strains of bacteria in your gut. It's one of your body's unique and probably most beautiful defense mechanisms. When your liver does not make bile properly, that environment does not remain acidic. When the environment does not remain acidic, all types of bacteria can grow. Some of them that release good gases, some of them that release bad gases. And inevitably, the overgrowth of bad bacteria will happen and your breath will start to smell. All problems to do with liver. Now think back to what you would have normally done, right? Normally you would have taken a mouthwash, brushed, etc., thinking that the problem is fixed, but it comes back a few days later. That's what I meant by fixing the root cause. Now that you know it's the liver, you can do so much more to permanently remove that. And that's the power of knowledge. I'm going to go quickly to point 4 and point 5. One is high cholesterol. This is something a lot of us face. A lot of people get very worried when the cholesterol number comes above 200 on their report. Quickly, high cholesterol means that there is an imbalance, right? Your body is making more cholesterol than you can remove. So the simple way to reduce cholesterol is to remove more cholesterol. The way cholesterol leaves your body is it comes to your liver, it gets broken down and you poop it out. If your liver doesn't function properly, cholesterol doesn't get broken down, it stays in the blood and you have high cholesterol. Same thing, this is especially for females, same thing with estrogen. If any nutritionist or doctor or anybody online is telling you that you have hormone imbalance, a very high chance you have excess estrogen. The way estrogen is broken down is the exact same way that cholesterol is broken down. It comes to the liver, gets broken down, released through bile, and then you poop it out. Estrogen is a hormone. It's a fat-based hormone. You cannot pee it out. You cannot urinate estrogen. You have to poop it out. And here the liver contributes the most as a detox pathway. So if you have a score of 3+, or if you have a score of less than 3, but you're doing things which can push it above 3, these are the 4 or 5 problems that you will have. There will be low energy days, low productivity days, moodiness, unhappiness. You will feel bouts and swings in terms of your excitement and your depression. And a lot of this has to do with how your body is biologically struggling to keep what it should and to remove what it shouldn't. So much of this, not 100%, but so much of this is linked to your liver. If you fix your liver, if you improve your liver health, the chance that you have to improve the outcome is incredible and it's very quick. All right. So I'm now going to move into the final segment of of this particular episode, which is solutions, right? What do we do? Before we get there, I'm going to quickly talk about one question somebody's asked. Somebody's asked, what do you do in case you've had a gallbladder surgery? It's outside the scope of the session right now, but it complicates matters, right? So people, especially the medical fraternity today, will tell you that gallbladder surgery, though everybody does it. It's very regular, it's very normal. Please don't make that mistake. Think twice before you remove any organ from your body. Reason I'm saying this is the gallbladder is like a tank between the liver and your intestine. You remove that, juice and bile flows to the intestine uncontrollably. It doesn't get stored. Whenever your liver makes bile, it starts coming directly into your intestine. And so these are the sort of concerns, and that creates a mess, right? It creates a nuisance all across. You get diarrhea, you get abdominal cramps, bloating, creates a mess. So the tips that you need to follow if you've had a gallbladder surgery will be slightly different. And so I'm going to leave that outside the scope of this discussion right now. All right. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you at one time. So if you're still with me, just give me a quick yes in the chat box, right? So just give me a quick yes if you're with me. If I'm going too fast, going too slow, just let me know. And accordingly, I'll manage in the next segment altogether. All right, that's wonderful. All right, absolutely incredible. Cool. Let's move on to the solutions now, right? Solution number one, and perhaps the one which most people find fascinating, is change your cooking oil. You will be very surprised when I tell you why. Look, the obvious culprits to a fatty liver, everybody knows, right? You know that sugar is not good. You know that alcohol is not good. And I suspect that if you are trying to make lifestyle changes, you're probably eliminating as much as you can. But one culprit that people don't know about that damages the liver irreparably is cooking oils. I'm not even discussing toxins, that's extra. I'm talking about cooking oils. If you stop the damage, your liver will start to heal itself. So before I go forward, just a quick test, right? I put 4 cooking oils on your screen. Each square, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Each square has the same oil. On one side, the oil is cold pressed, and on one side, the oil is refined. I'll say it again. You can see A, B, C, and D. On one side, the oil is cold pressed, and on one side, the oil is refined. In the chat box, I want you to tell me which one is cold pressed and which one is refined. Tell me left or right, right? Is right cold pressed or refined? And is left cold pressed or refined? The answer might blow you away. Take a minute and in the chat box, just give me the answer, right? Which of the 2 oils in each quadrant is cold pressed or refined? And they're all kept in the same way, right? So you can just say right is cold pressed or left is cold pressed, one of the 2. Right, very interesting. So there is no consensus. There's a split. I'm going to wait for more answers. I need more participation before I go forward. Tell me which of the 2 press. Just give me an answer in the chat box. All right. All right, very interesting. So I'm going to share the answer with you now. And I just want to quickly say, I love the participation. You guys are an absolutely fantastic audience. I'm going to share the answer with you now. The one on the right. So each of these on the right is cold pressed and each of the left is refined. Oil A is canola, oil B is coconut, C is sunflower, and D is grapeseed. Just pay attention to what you see in front of you. The cold pressed version is so much richer in color. If you actually open the bottles, it has a much richer smell. The refined version is not like that because they have refined the oil. They've removed a lot of the nutrition from the oil. They've removed the color, they've removed the flavor so that it can have a longer shelf life. So that the customer doesn't have to think twice, okay, the smell of the oil will not spoil the smell of the food. This is how refined oil manufacturers work. But in the process of taking an oil from cold press to refine, they add so many compounds in there which are extremely harmful for the liver. For example, using a refined sunflower oil at home, when you cook it, inevitably it leads to something called trans fat. Trans fat is banned in every single country on the planet. It is declared publicly as a health problem. Adding trans fat into your oil doesn't happen at the stage when it's bottled. It's happened when you remove from that bottle and put it into the frying pan. And there, the excess trans fat will create a nuisance with your liver. Cooking oils is the biggest hidden culprit to fatty liver today. And I'm going to explain what you can replace this with as well. So on the right-hand side are different temperatures at which cold press oil burns. You can see that sunflower, flaxseed, canola at 100 degrees itself, it starts to burn. That is why they refine it so that you can use it at higher temperatures. But ghee, peanut oil, and coconut oil, right? These three in particular, they're very readily available in India as well. Their cold pressed version has a very high burning point, which means you can use them to cook, deep fry, whatever it is that you want. And so the first thing I recommend that you do is I recommend that you go away from refined oils and instead pick a cold pressed oil or ghee, one of the two. Pick ghee, pick peanut oil, pick coconut oil, even olive oil is fine. But make sure it is cold pressed or virgin, any one of the two, and not refined. This will give you a significant improvement in your liver health just because you have started to stop the damage. As simple as that. So the number one recommendation for you today, apart from stopping alcohol, stopping sugar, which you know, is change your cooking oil. Stop the damage and you'll see how quickly your liver starts to perform on its own. Number two, right, is increasing the time between dinner and breakfast. I want you to fast, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Before I get there, another quick poll, right? Tell me, for last night, how many hours went by between the time you had your dinner and you had breakfast this morning? For example, if I had dinner at 8 p.m. last night and I ate my breakfast at 8 in the morning today, it means 12 hours have gone by, right? So just the poll is on your screen, quickly write it down, right? How many hours between dinner last night for you and breakfast this morning for you? Give me an answer. It could be in the poll, it could be the chat box, all right? Shiva, I think a few people are asking where the poll is. If you could help them.
The poll is available to everyone. You should see on the screens. If not, just quit from the full screen and see if you can find the poll. You must be on full screen. Just quit the full screen and you should see the poll.
Anybody with tea or coffee, right? Ardipji, it could be tea or coffee is entirely. I mean, tea or from dinner to tea or coffee. Somebody said if you're doing intermittent fasting and you're not having dinner, in that case, it's your last meal to breakfast, number of hours, right? So just keep that in mind. I'm going to the chat right now. I'm going to wait just for a few more seconds for the poll to be complete. All right.
Oh, Harsh, the question says fast between dinner yesterday and lunch today instead of breakfast. Is that okay?
No, that becomes too long. All right, no worries. So it should be to breakfast. That's all right. No issues. I see a lot of questions around cold pressed oils. We'll answer them in just 20 minutes once the Q&A session is ready. We'll also talk about contamination, etc.
So request everyone to park your questions. We have a dedicated time for Q&A. So for now, we'll just continue with the session. Thanks.
Super. So dinner and breakfast, right? So the point is that fasting naturally allows your body to use stores from your liver and your muscles as opposed to using stores from your food, right? So here is a sort of a very simple depiction of that. When you eat, sugar is coming from your food, or carbs or any nutrition is coming from your food. When you don't, it's coming from your liver. And so the fat around the liver starts to become smaller. It becomes less because your body is starting to utilize those stores. Now, keep in mind that exercise will not do this all the time. because it depends on what you eat before and after you exercise. But fasting is a foolproof method to do this. Now, there are a few things you need to understand, and it's very important that this becomes very clear. Fasting does not mean staying hungry. It doesn't mean कि एक meal skip कर दो, right? Doesn't mean skip a meal at all. And the reason I'm saying that is because fasting has to happen at one go, at a stretch. In the first 12 hours after you've eaten a meal, your body is still processing that meal. It doesn't just go away. After the 12, 13, maybe 14-hour mark, once your body's nutrition and energy from meal goes away, only then does the energy from your liver start to get utilized. So it's very important that you understand that fasting cannot be, I've left one meal, so my liver will be okay. Absolutely not. It has to happen at a stretch, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18 hours. For most people, the fasting that I've seen that works, and of course, you should find out what works for you, is circadian fasting, which means you eat when the sun comes up and you stop eating when the sun goes down. Even if it's 12 or 14 hours, that is a great amount of time at length, where you can do that for 6-7 months for your liver health to start to improve. Now, keep in mind that just because you are fasting doesn't mean you can eat anything when you eat. If you fast for 16 hours and then start eating ice cream, your liver health will be compromised again, because all the good that you've done, you've replaced again with all the trouble. So what you eat is just as important as how long you fast. And above all, how consistently you do this throughout. Fasting, by the way, is so effective for fatty liver that some research shows that for people that have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, Muslims in particular, during Ramzan, the 30 days of fasting, they see a near complete reversal of their condition. So it's not just that it's effective very, very quickly. So I recommend that you start small. Don't just start by skipping meals. Your body will take time to get used to it. If your time between dinner and breakfast today is 8, 10, 12 hours, try to push it by 1 hour more. Make it 13 hours. Then make it 14 hours. So slowly increase your body's resilience to fast. Not eating in so many cases is much better than eating good, because the benefits you get by fasting are incompatible to the benefits you get by eating. I'll address any questions around this particular segment because I know there's a lot of thoughts here right at the end of the conversation. Last piece that I'm going to be talking about is going to be drink something bitter daily. Everything and every taste has some relation with some part of the body. Bitter has a direct affinity with the liver. I want to explain what I mean by this. We have bitter taste receptors on our tongue. But interestingly, we also have bitter taste receptors all over the body. They're inside our heart, inside our lungs, on top of our liver. They call this extraoral, which means outside the mouth, bitter taste receptors. So this confuses scientists, right? What is the reason to have a bitter taste receptor outside the mouth? It's not like your liver is going to taste bitter food. Only recently did Harvard researchers come up with the answer. It turns out that this is a defense mechanism of the body. When you eat bitter things, I'll take a step back. 70% of toxins or 70% of poisons in nature taste bitter. If you actually go online, there's a database called BitterDB, which documents and has categorized this. Because toxins in nature taste bitter, your body has evolved to elicit a reaction whenever bitter things touch your tongue. Your stomach acidity will improve, hoping that maybe the toxin gets neutralized. Your digestive system will improve, hoping the toxin gets broken down. And your liver will start to release much more digestive juice, hoping that it can clear the body of any toxin that has come in. Drinking bitter is like the easiest way to hit the detox button on your body. It is highly effective because your body is trained over literally centuries to react in that particular way. It is a defense mechanism built for your survival. When you eat bitter food, your body thinks it's a toxin and behaves to detox. Now, multiple things, right, that happen across the spectrum. Like I said, it will reduce inflammation, it will balance stomach acid, you'll see better bile flow. If you Google right now, what are bitter foods, you'll get a lot of the normal things. Bitter melon, bitter gourd, karela, neem. Not all bitter food works in the same way. I'll give you an example. When we were starting to do research on this around 5 or 6 years back, we picked some of the most well-researched bitter foods from the US. They were called gentian and wormwood, and we imported some to India. We started giving them to a couple of the employees of the factory. I had them myself. And almost all of us at the same time got ulcers in our mouth. One person had a hyperacidity reaction. Why? Because not all bitters suit Indian bodies. So using outside bitters like gentian, wormwood, sometimes certain types of flowers like chamomile or citrus peels may not suit our body. What we needed was an Indian solution and an Indian bitter that we can tolerate. Something that is studied, proven, safe, and works for Indian bodies. And for us, the answer was kalmeg leaves. I'll say that again. For us, the answer was kalmeg leaves. In the south, they call this nilavembu. Kalmeg is one of the most bitter leaves available in India, but it is also one of the most safest. When a child in a village is born, around 6 months, 7 months old, the mother normally gives them 1 or 2 drops of kalmeg, because it not just helps your immunity, it also improves the liver function, it also improves the digestive function. When the government of Rajasthan, around 3 or 4 years back, launched a scheme called the Ghar Ghar Aushadhi Yojana scheme. In this scheme, they wanted to give 5 crore households in Rajasthan. This is during COVID times. Well, it was accelerated during COVID times, started before that. They wanted to give every household in Rajasthan certain medicinal plants because they are so good that everybody should be having them. The chief officer of this project, Ghar Ghar Aushadhi Yojana, his name is IFS officer Deep Pandey. Deep sir told me that they evaluated 9 lakh different research papers, almost 900 different species of plants, and they selected only 4. The 4 that they selected, and just take a look at the bottom of your screen: tulsi, ashwagandha, giloy, and kalmeg. Kalmeg is so safe that the government of Rajasthan decided to share this with every single household at their own cost. But kalmeg alone is not going to be effective. And what I mean by that is it depends where you get it from. It depends what quality it is. When you go to an Ayurvedic store or a herbal store and you pick up kalmeg, you don't even know if it's actually kalmeg or some other crop because nobody does biosequencing properly. So to create a combination and the right dosage with the right herbal strategy around, we ended up formulating the product called kalmeg bitters, right? Which is the product in front of your screen right now, where we don't just mix kalmeg in it, but we mix a few other things. We mix turmeric, we mix moringa, because we've noticed that this combination seems to have an incredible result on liver function. In fact, let me show you what that function actually is, right? If you get a liver profile test done, you'll know that there are 2 parameters called SGPT and SGOT. When tested on people that have extremely high SGPT, SGOT, it, by the way, it should be around 30 to 60. Before it was 330, and after you see it dropping to almost 52, which means there is an 80+% difference sometimes when you drink the right type of combinations to improve liver health, right? That's how fast you can actually improve it. And so, like I said a little bit earlier on, we bottle actually some of these products. This particular one, kalmeg bitters, is something that we make at our factory. And the way we recommend anybody consumes this is a bottle a day. You wake up on an empty stomach, you drink a bottle. It's like having a normal morning juice, right? A lot of people have hot water, a lot of people have apple cider vinegar, etc., etc. Here we recommend you do it for kalmeg. But you do this for a minimum of 24 days. You start with a few, a minimum 24. 1 bottle every day in the morning after you wake up. You wait for 20 minutes and then you can eat whatever you want. Of course, because it's bitter, you can have water, right? Because a lot of people will say, oh, it's, you want to get used to the taste of it first. So you can have some water to chase it down. But this is the format in which we recommend you continue a product like this. I'll share some details around how you can get access to this, etc., right at the end. Just as a quick aside, and for people that are watching this webinar today, typically we offer the product as packs of 24. They come direct to home wherever you are in the country. They come directly from the factory. But for people on this webinar, we're offering a 4-bottle sample pack, something that you can try at home yourself, just 4 days, and see what you're feeling. If you're feeling acidic, constipated, bloated, low energy, see how much difference it makes within 4 days just by working on your liver. Don't expect a massive change, but even if there's a 20 or 30% change, that's massive for something that's this quick. Like I said, typically we retail a pack of 4 at a cost of rupees 300. Our actual cost for everybody on the webinar, well, before the webinar was supposed to be 240, but just for today and until midnight today, we're offering it at 229 rupees, which means we will home deliver 4 bottles to your place for 229 rupees, but you can try this for 4 days and see what the results are for yourself. I'm leaving a QR code on. You can scan this to go directly to the website. I think Shiva will also share the website details separately with you on chat. If you'd like to speak to somebody from our team for a one-on-one or just to know a little bit more, I've left a WhatsApp number online as well. And with that, I come straight to the end of the presentation. I think I'm open to questions right now. Before I quickly go there, I want to reiterate just one quick point. It is very easy, extremely easy to hide symptoms. If you are cut somewhere, you can apply a Band-Aid. But that doesn't heal the wound. It only stops the bleeding. If you truly want to heal the wound, you need to work from within. And to do that, you need to identify the root cause. I hope in today's hour-long presentation, you've gotten an idea of how important this football-shaped organ inside your body is. And if you manage to improve that just by 10%, the changes you see across your body will blow you away. I firmly maintain you cannot be healthy if you have a dirty stomach or a poor liver today. I hope that this gives you the encouragement and the confidence to start working on the liver, either on your own self or with us, absolutely up to you. But I hope you take that step forward to improve your life going forward. All right, with that, I'm stopping now. I'm going to wait for any questions that come in the chat. Shiva, if you can moderate, I think that'll be absolutely wonderful, and we'll take it forward from there.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks so much, Harsh, for that wonderful presentation and for the offer as well. I think that's a brilliant offer of someone who wants to try it out and see if there's any difference. And now, the first thing I want to mention is there's a feedback poll on your screens. Request everyone to take a few minutes and fill in the feedback poll so that we can get what you think about the session is and how is the content of the session, and we can curate more sessions like this going forward. And now we move on to the Q&A section of the presentation today. Request everyone who has a question to raise your hand if you want to talk to Harsh directly and ask a question. Otherwise, you can leave your questions in the Q&A area also that you can see on screens or on the chat box also. So we have one raised hand. We'll just take the question from Namrata. Namrata, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Thank you, Shiva. Hi, Harsh. That was a lovely presentation. I have 2 questions to ask. One is, you said that you should fast continuously, right? And you said you need to increase it from 12 to 13, etc. So what is the maximum level that we must go up to? Is it 16 hours, 18 hours? What is it?
All right. It entirely depends on your body, right? And it depends on the fit you have. So some people are more metabolically active. If the point of fasting is to empty the liver, if you're more metabolically active, it might happen in 14 hours. If you're more sedentary, it might happen in 16 or 17 hours. Most often in the long run, people have noticed that going past the 16 to 18 hour mark is not possible. It becomes very difficult. And so I normally recommend that's the area you should stay at. but it should be up to your body and your comfort.
So 16 hours would be ideal, is what you're saying?
Depends on your body. Yeah.
Achha, okay, that's one. Second, I wanted to understand from you is, you spoke about muscle ache, vitamin E, oxytocin. Okay, I just wanted to understand from you, how would we come to know the difference between this muscle ache is because of vitamin E deficiency, because of liver / because of estrogen, the hormonal imbalance happening because of menopause? Is there a way to find out and address it?
So, no, good question again, right? When any one thing goes wrong in the body, there's a cascade. A lot of things happen together. And so segmenting which of those is the thing you want to go after first is a very difficult thing to do. And so the way to do this instead is you pick the easiest thing to start with and go upwards. Mm-hmm. For example, fixing your gut and your liver is a very easy thing to do. Fixing that might give you 60% relief. After that, you'll go to the next thing. I'll give you an example in the reverse, right? Let's say you have a right shoulder pain. Mm-hmm. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to put a hot water bag. If it goes away, great. If it doesn't, you might go to the next step, take a painkiller. If it goes away, great. If it doesn't, you go to the next step, which is start working on your liver, right? So start with the easiest step first, because the search for the perfect problem is incredibly difficult. You will spend literally lakhs on tests and you won't have an answer.
I just thought that getting your vitamin E levels tested would help. No?
They're not accurate, right? So vitamin E doesn't flow around in the blood the way most other vitamins do. Mm-hmm. And so it's not easy to test with a high level of sensitivity.
Okay. Because estrogen, again, it fluctuates at menopause. So that can also, and then if liver is damaged, then everything.
Absolutely. Multiple conditions could be here.
Correct. So I just wanted to understand how I can find out if liver can address this muscle ache problem,
Start simple, right? So start by focusing on your liver, right? Do the small things, be patient, and see what comes out of it.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Namrata. I hope that answered your question. We have Ved Vyas next. Ved Vyas, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Ved Vyas, can you hear me? Okay. We go to Mosina Taj. Mosina, you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hi, I have a question. The Calmic product that you have offered, so you said the best results comes within 24 to 48 days as I was going through the website. So your product kills the root cause of this problem, or it is a kind of relief or what do you call first aid kind of concept?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a fantastic question. The liver is the only organ which regenerates itself. So when you do a liver transplant, you don't put the whole liver. You put a small piece of the liver and the liver grows, right? It's a unique property of the liver. So when you use a product that is made with bitters in particular for the liver, it gives the liver room to regrow. Once the liver has come back to its full capacity, the product is no longer required. What do I mean by that? Think, because I'm a visual thinker, imagine that drinking Calmake is virtually building a bubble around your liver to prevent different things and toxins from attacking it. This allows your liver to regenerate and become stronger because it's a unique property of the liver. Once your liver is fine, you don't need the bubble anymore. And that is why what we recommend is between 24 to 48 days. Now, unfortunately, the truth is people don't change their lifestyle substantially. They'll continue sort of, taking stress, skipping sleep, not drinking enough water, eating fried and salty and sugary foods. And so the problem will recur because they have not changed their lifestyle. And when it does, that's when you'll have to take the course one more time. So if you're doing both together, a single course is good enough. But if you're not, then be mindful that you might have to repeat the course once every quarter or once every 6 months, sort of like servicing a car. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Super.
Thanks, Mosina, for that question. Vedvyas, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, Shiva, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry about earlier. I think that was a small mistake. Okay. First of all, I appreciate your session. Thank you so much, Harsh. I appreciate your time. That was a wonderful presentation, by the way. So, I'm just wondering whether there is a correlation between liver functioning and, maybe call it gut health or liver health with the hair fall, actually. Like, I'm a little bit concerned about hair fall. I don't know whether this is the right platform to ask it, but I don't have the family history of baldness or something, but I'm just curious to know this. So whether does a healthy liver, does that mean that we can
100%.
regrow our hair?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, by the way. And 100% it is. Hair is a non-essential item of the body, right? So if you cut a strand of hair, what you'll find is a range of excess minerals. You'll find tissue, protein, keratin, a lot of biotin, right? These different types of vitamins as well. When your liver and gut health is compromised, your body cannot absorb minerals and nutrition from the food like it should. And so it needs maybe 100, but it's only getting 50. It cannot improve the 50. So it starts to cut down on where it's using those minerals. So the first thing it's going to discard is your hair. It is a non-essential item. Losing your hair will not kill you. But if your pancreas stops functioning, you will die. You will go into a coma. And so it will prioritize. It will remove hair. It will take those nutrients and it will instead send them elsewhere. And this is perhaps the simplest way of explaining the link between liver, gut, and hair loss. It is a direct connection. Most people who have hair loss have digestive problems. Most people. It's not a coincidence.
Okay, all right. So maintaining the healthy gut and healthy liver, you mean to say that it could improve the chances if it
100%.
might not be over 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You will see a drastic reduction. And then whatever specific nutrition that you might need, maybe biotin or whatever else, or keratin, etc., protein, then you can fulfill that. And then you'll see 100% reversal of hair loss.
Right, yeah. That answers much of my questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Vedvyas, for that question. Moving on to the Q&A section where we have some interesting questions for Harsh to answer. Harsh, we have a question from Shivam Mishra, who's asking, liver cleansing using Epsom salt and olive oil has been a long tried method. Is there any information that you can share with respect to that?
So let me start by saying that there are two ways to think about liver cleansing. The first one is to do it bio-individually. So if you try Epsom salt and olive oil and it works for you, great. But then the second question is, how do you know that it's actually cleansing? Don't go online. Don't read about what it says online, right? Is there a report, your before after, which shows that there is a difference? Is there a symptomatic difference? Do you feel better after doing it and you know it's not placebo? And if the answer is yes, by all means, go ahead and do it. If you ask me personally, I don't believe in it. I am strongly an advocate for Indian traditional food. It's very easy for us to have used citrus peels, etc. But I only believe in Indian traditional food. I also don't believe in supplements. Epsom salt is not a natural form of salt. And what I mean by that is it's slightly processed to only get the magnesium that you need in there. In the same way, when it comes to kalmeg leaves, we use the whole leaf. We don't use just one compound or one extract, because I believe that in its natural matrix, it will do more for us. Interestingly, Ayurveda has 22 different formulations for the liver. In all 22, in each one of them, kalmeg is mentioned. It's not a coincidence. And so, like I said, there are two ways to think about this. If it works for you, by all means, go ahead and do it. I just don't believe in that because I believe in the power of real, natural, and traditional Indian food.
Great. Thanks, Harsh, for answering that question. We move to another interesting question. It's from an anonymous attendee saying diabetes and cholesterol is under control, but triglycerides is high. Is it linked to liver problem and how to overcome it?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And inevitably, if your triglycerides keeps going up, your blood sugar will inevitably go out of control. The simplest way to control triglycerides, and if it's only triglycerides, is low carb diet, right? Start cutting out the carbs in your food, change your cooking oil. If you're having alcohol, stop that and see the result you get on your triglycerides. Alternatively, start eating bitter food. Doesn't have to be Kalmic bitters, eat any bitter food. In combination with a low carb diet, removing alcohol, changing your cooking oil, and start to see the results that you will have on your blood report just 25 or 30 days later.
Thanks, Harsh, for that answer. Another question that we have from the chat box is from Pooja. She says, I have a question. Does huge hair fall signifies poor health of liver?
Yeah, so I just answered that, I think, with somebody a little bit earlier. Absolutely. There is a clear connection between hair fall, gut health, and liver health. If any of those two don't work properly, there's a compromise in the nutrition you're absorbing from your food, and that directly affects the hair that you have on your head.
Harsh, I was also wondering if we could answer a few questions that we've got when we were doing the cold press oil exercise.
Yeah,
sure. A lot of people were asking how to find the right product because we have a variety of products available in the market when it comes to cold press. So any tips on how to identify a right cold press oil?
All right. So a couple of things. I have, in fact, I'm going to, while we're on the session right now, I'm going to share a blog that I've written extensively on this, which sort of compares how you can find the right oils, etc. I'm just dropping that note into the chat box now. So that should be, sorry, just a moment. I've just shared that onto the chat box. So hopefully that's a good sort of starting point. But a couple of points which are relevant from an oil standpoint, and honestly, if you operate in a kitchen or you eat out of your own kitchen, this is really important to know. There are three types of oils. There is refined, filtered, and cold pressed. They're all different. All right. Refined is processed chemically. They put chemicals inside to remove odor, remove smell, etc. It's the worst kind. I would never touch that. Filtered is a simpler version of that, right? Where they'll push oil through a certain type of filter, but they use a lot of heat in order to remove certain color, remove certain types of nutrition so that the oil has a longer shelf life. I would not use that either, right? Filtered or double filtered oil, etc. It's all the same. It's processed one way or the other. What I would use is a cold pressed oil. Now for this, you need to understand the procedure of making cold pressed oil. They make it using a kachigani. What I mean by that is it's like a small wooden pot in which you're sort of rotating a small piece of wood, right? It's like a mortar pestle. And the item getting crushed is where oil comes out from. The maximum temperature that a kachigani goes to is around 45, 48 degrees Celsius. That is well below the cooking point of these oils. And so these oils come to you in an uncooked, pure virgin format, right? It's not processed at a high temperature. Nothing's been removed from it. Nothing's been added to it. It is just pure oil. So if you're online and you're searching for oil on Amazon, what I would look for is kachigani oil or something of the sort, right? Or cold pressed. That is backed by how they've cold pressed it. Because if they don't tell you that, it's probably not cold pressed. When you get the oil, there's a couple of other things you can do, right? Expect that oil to have a very rich smell. Also expect that oil to have like a lot of particles in it. This is all evidence that it's natural. The cleaner and purer it looks, it means they've removed something, they've filtered somewhere, and they haven't told you about it. So these are just 2 points that I would keep in mind, right, when I'm purchasing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Harsh, there's also another question in the chat box that says, including foods like bitter gourds, people usually cook these for their lunch, right? Including foods like this can have an effect on the liver health.
Absolutely. You have to understand. So when I said there are taste receptors, I'll give you perspective. There are 48 taste receptors in your mouth. Different bitter foods activate different number of those taste receptors. So bitter gourd activates 5, 4, neem activates 6, 7, kalmeg will activate 16, 17. So it totally depends on which food and how many taste receptors are being activated. But let me be clear, all bitter food is good. Let me just start by saying that. So even if you're activating few, it's fine. Because you're activating them, it's great. That's a great starting point.
We'll take the last two questions for today. Pavani, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hello. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So which cooking oil we have to choose? A little bit confused in that area. Like, is that mustard oil or groundnut oil, or means based on the fat levels,
All
or
right.
pill oil?
So as I was going through the chat right now, I noticed a lot of people mentioned that I've missed mustard oil. Absolutely right. So in the Western Coast, I'm from Bombay. In Bombay, and in our cooking, typically we use less mustard oil because it's quite pungent, right? It needs to sort of match the cuisine. But a lot of people in the north, northeast, etc., mustard oil is very, very popular. That's another one with a very high burning point. And if you get cold pressed mustard oil, you must use it. When the oil I will recommend is cold pressed coconut oil, is ghee, or cold pressed olive oil, cold pressed peanut oil. These are some of the few that I would recommend you consider when you're purchasing your oil.
Okay. So taking the ghee, will that add the cholesterol levels more?
Not at all. Not at all. And this is something, there's been such a large debate around this that the only way to verify is to go online and type out, right, the link between ghee, which is clarified butter, and cholesterol. You will find zero link.
Oh,
and let me explain why to you, right? 75% of your cholesterol is made by your body. It doesn't come from your food. 75%. And so thinking that egg yolk, for example, or ghee is causing your high cholesterol is absolutely incorrect. In fact, ghee improves gut and liver health in ways that you can never imagine. And I can do a totally separate session on ghee altogether, but no, ghee is not bad whatsoever. I'm not recommending you eat it in large quantities. 2 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon, etc. is what you need to go for. You don't need much more than that.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pavani, for that question. Last question for today. Ugesh, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Ugesh.
Bhargav here. I think the link came from Mukesh, my lady. Actually,
Yeah,
I have
you can go ahead.
fatty liver. Due to this, any skin issues will happen. Any skin rashes in that way.
Yeah. So it depends on. So there's a direct and indirect. The indirect is when you have fatty liver, your liver doesn't make bile juice. You might have a fungal infection, and then you'll have sort of dry skin, scaly skin, itchy skin, white skin. That could be, it's not a direct cause, it's an indirect cause. If your liver was functioning properly, the fungus would never have come. But because it's not, the fungus found a home and now the fungus is spreading across the body, right? So there's a multiple factors. And the direct one is sometimes poor liver management affects your entire hormonal cycle. And that will start showing up in skin in different ways, in stress, in resilience. And so you might have a skin issue directly because of the liver as well. So you'll have to study the case more deeply. But I recommend you visit sort of a hepatologist to understand which is the cause, right? Is it direct or indirect? And accordingly start to address it. In both cases, by the way, addressing your liver will help.
Okay. Detox, you do suggest detox? Because when I visited Ayurvedic specialist, first she suggested to me go for a detox. Detoxification of my purity so that you can remove the impurities in my blood.
Yeah. So the word detox has become so oversold. People will sell anything on the name of detox today. So the point to understand that again, 2 points I want to make here. First one is an Ayurvedic detox is called Panch Karma. If you get a proper Panch Karma done, that's perfect. It's wonderful. But Panch Karma is like cleaning your stomach, and what I mean by that is let's say your stomach is dirty and you cleaned it once, there is no guarantee it will remain clean. It may become dirty again because you've not changed whatever you've done to make it dirty in the first place. Does that make sense? And so just the detox is not adequate. In your case, let's say it's a fungus, right? You've done a detox and the fungus went. If your liver is not okay, the fungus will come back again and you'll have the same problem next year. So you need to combine the detox with better organ health. And only then you'll get a proper result where you won't have to do detox again and again because your own body is taking care of its own self. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
So just
because even the hair, even what my person, another person said, hair fall, even have that hair fall also.
No, absolutely. Like I said, right? Even when it comes to hair fall, exactly same condition. I think these are all things that the root will start from nutrition and organ health. But our approach is medicine, right? So you start from nutrition and focus on organ health and you'll see a wonderful, wonderful result. Shiva, can I take a few questions in the chat? I'm seeing some recurring questions coming up.
Definitely. I was about to ask you to take a couple of questions here and there. So one is, we have one question that is in the Q&A section and also in the chat box, which is from Divakar R. Saying, can you help me with something to cure kidney stones and tips that it should not occur?
So hard. Honestly, Divakar ji, kidney stones is absolutely outside my scope. I've only, like I said, we focus almost exclusively on liver and gut. And there is a lot of links to kidney, but renal nutrition is a separate field altogether. So I don't want to get engaged in something that I'm not an expert in just yet. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer that question right now.
Sure. So you're free to pick your questions, sir.
All right. So there are a couple in the chat. I'm just going to keep going up and I'll do sort of a rapid fire for the next 8 to 10 minutes. How about a double filtered oil? Same problem. It's filtered. It's not cold pressed. Somebody says, I have an acute pancreatic problem, different ball game altogether. You probably need to meet a nutritionist to help. Rice bran oil, one of the worst. It is actually, rice bran is the waste of rice that they've converted into oil. The only reason they make it into oil is because it's the cheapest raw material to make oil, not because it's healthy for your body. Sunflower, same thing. People with more than 36 waist, obese, having healthy hair, forget the hair piece, right? If your waist is above 36 and you're obese, you probably are going to start developing some other metabolic condition. And if it's not now, it's going to be a matter of time. Better to have animal-based oil rather than plant-based oil. It depends, right? Animal-based oil and plant-based oil is not the whole picture, right? It's what you do to that oil. So if you're refining and processing it, you're going to kill that oil, right? So keep that in mind. Is Kalmeg and neem the same? Fantastic question. Not at all. Kalmeg is for the liver. Neem is for immunity. Kalmeg activates a different set of bitter compounds. Neem activates a different set of bitter compounds. They're not the same at all. Can use of bitter gourd in food help us in improving health? 100%, right? Of course, it'll improve liver health, no question. If you want to improve health faster and better, then you need to take better ingredients. Skin issue due to fatty liver, I've addressed it. Best cooking oil, I've addressed it. Is fasting good for diabetics? This is such a large topic that you've raised. Again, I'll share another link in the chat box before I leave. I've written a massive blog on this with actual results before and after, because we do a lot of work with diabetics as well. But if you go on to YouTube and just type in the same question, you'll get a 16-minute video by Dr. Pramod Tripathi, who's explained this in extravagant detail. It is very hard today to reverse diabetes without fasting. And ask anybody who's reversed it, they will tell you the same thing. But you need to do this under the guidance of a proper person. Is neem better than Kalmeg? Aditya ji, like I said, it depends on what you are using it for. If you're using it for immunity, yes. If you're using it for liver, no. Vitamin B12, D, and good digestion are very important factors in hair growth. Aniket ji, absolutely, spot on. Huge hair fall signifies poor health of liver? Not always, right? Because let's say you're not eating enough protein, your hair is not going to grow. And so there is no liver component there. It's a nutrition component there. So no, it's not always like that. Is neem leaf good for us? Like I said, for immunity. Can a diabetic drink Kalmeg bitters? We have a separate product for diabetes that we call mango leaf tonic. The mango leaf tonic is it's an incredible bring down blood sugar for people with liver trouble. And so if you are a diabetic, I recommend you try the mango leaf tonic instead. And you can just write a small note in the chat box or reach out to Shiva and we'll guide you to the right place. What's the quantity we should have per day? 100 ml. It's one bottle per day. So the bottle is around 100 ml. You just have to open and drink sort of one bottle at a time. Is a glass of wine daily helpful? Not at all. I do not recommend that. Can contamination in food be a cause for unhealthy liver? Yeah, absolutely. There's something they call forever chemicals. You'll find this interesting. There are certain chemicals which stay in the body for 30 years. That's quite scary. It means that the certain chemicals that your body cannot break down, they just hang around in your body for a long time. There was a movie, I think, with Will Smith, which came out, which was talking about one of these chemicals. I forget the name right now, but you'll probably find it on Netflix or online. Today we call it Teflon. But back then, when Teflon was introduced, it was of a different chemical composition. And the number of cancer cases that were coming because of food products which contain Teflon was off the charts. And cancer was happening because the liver could not break down that compound and throw it out. And so, absolutely, right? Chemicals are there. Now, imagine today we sleep on a mattress that is flame retardant. It won't catch fire. Why? Because of chemicals. We live in a house with walls with lead paint. We operate in an environment where there is so much, smoke and dust and pollution which comes from cars. So the amount of environmental toxins attacking our body it's unbelievable. Today it's much, much more than it was before. And so even the things we cook in, for example. And so unless you focus on reducing some of these and improving your liver health at the same time, you're not going to be able to get to a body where you can actually maintain good health and a non-cancerous life, right? So you're right. Contamination in food will cause a problem. The chemicals around us are causing problems. Try to reduce that as much as possible. And at the same time, keep improving your liver health. Mustard oil. I think there's a lot of that. And intermittent fasting. I think honestly, I've gone all the way to the top as much as I can just to scroll through to get an answer. You can just tell me if I've missed anything so far.
Harsh, I have one question that I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
From my side. So these days, I hear a lot of people talking about liver. The people who said liver for liver, you should actually eat liver to have a better liver. There's a guy who's called the liver king who eats raw liver just to maintain the liver health, and he's got this chiseled body and all that. And people of different sorts are coming out and encouraging people to eat liver for liver, right? Any thoughts on that?
So I'm vegetarian. Let me start by saying that. And so even if that was good, it would not be part of my diet. But the truth is, I haven't studied it, right? There is a lot of evidence that suggests that I hear that raw meats are very good for overall body health, not just liver. But like I said, for me, and as a vegetarian, it's not part of the subset of choices I make. That's part one. Part two, we don't need to do that, right? Yeah. So for as far as I can tell, none of my ancestors ate raw liver meat. In fact, they didn't eat meat at all. And so probably my genetic composition is one that is not used to eating that. I'd like to believe that I don't need that to survive, right? I can eat what I am and take care of my liver in other ways. So to sort of a long answer to the question is, even if it's good, it's not required, right? Because there are other ways of getting to the same endpoint as opposed to taking it.
Thank you for that, Harsh.
Yeah.
So I think overall we had a brilliant session today. Thank you so much for doing that rapid fire and also answering most of the questions that are thrown at you. Really appreciate that. And also like to take this opportunity to thank the audience who's coming today in good numbers. And I'm sure that you enjoyed the session. You're taking away a lot of information with you with this session. All thanks to Harsh. I hope you will work towards your liver health and make sure that you're coming out of all the problems in life and maintaining a very, very good health so that we can, do a lot of more sessions like this and enjoy our time. Thanks, Harsh. Thank you so much for a brilliant session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shiva, for inviting me, and thank you, everybody. I think you've been a wonderful, wonderful audience. I hope to do more of these. And so, you can just sort of let Shiva know at some point in part of the feedback what you would like to hear from us about. And I'd love to have another small presentation for you by then. And lastly,
I already have a request, Harsh, for
all
you.
right.
I already have a request. Somebody is asking me to do a webinar just on ghee with Harsh.
All right. I think we should. I think a lot of people have asked for that. So I actually might end up doing that. But I really appreciate so much love in the chat. I really, really appreciate this. If there are any more questions and you want to get in touch with my team or us directly, I'm just going to leave a WhatsApp number in the chat box. Is that all right, Shiva?
Yes, that will help. Yeah, absolutely.
I've left a WhatsApp number in the chat box. That's not my personal number. That's the company's number. But if you reach out, somebody will definitely get in touch and try to help you out. And like I said, absolute pleasure to be here. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Also, if you have any queries, you can write to me on the email that is mentioned in the chat box. I can connect you with Harsh directly.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Wonderful.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.